Okay, we're happy to have everybody here today. We're going to talk about stock, and stock is one of the basic investment tools, so it's important that everybody understand the concept of stock. With me today, I have Stephen Barnes, who's an attorney, works for Salt Lake County, and Daniel Barnes, who's a banker, has an MBA and works for Brighton Bank. And both of these guys know a lot about finance, so they've agreed to join me and discuss stock today. So before we get into the details of what stock is, Danny, you said you could talk a little bit about investing in stock, some of the ups and downs that happen, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dad. So, to start, a lot of you guys have probably seen stock and the stock market depicted in movies like Wall Street and The Wolf of Wall Street and Boiler Room. Kind of makes the whole industry typically kind of look sexy and like something people want to be a part of, but a lot of people don't know what to do when they actually start to look into investing. And I found an article here, an interesting article on USA Today that kind of goes over the possibility of investing $10,000 in stock. And if you invested the $10,000 in stock, starting in 2005, investing in the best rate of return stock for each year, year after year for 5 years, you could have turned that $10,000 investment into $178 million, which is something that probably no one ever did because it'd be almost impossible to figure out those stocks. But on the flip side, as easy it is to make money in stocks, it's just as easy to lose money in stocks, as you could see from the 2000 dot-com bubble that burst, as well as the crash in 2008 that all of us have just lived through, and we're still kind of going through the tail end of that recession now.
Okay, thanks, Danny. Before we get into the concept of stock, we have to understand the concept of a corporation, because a stock is ownership in a corporation. So, Stephen, can you explain what a corporation is for the class?
Yep. So a corporation is a legal entity that's distinct from its owners, and as a separate legal entity, corporations enjoy many of the rights and responsibilities that individuals enjoy. So corporations can own property, can hire employees, enter into contracts, borrow money. They have to pay taxes. So they are treated like their own person, but the most important aspect of a corporation is that they give limited liability to the owners. So the owners are often referred to as shareholders in a corporation, and so those shareholders, they contribute their money to the corporation and in return get an ownership share, but they are shielded from most liability. For instance, if the corporation owes money, the creditors wouldn't be able to go after the individual shareholders. They would be able to only go after the entity. So that's a big reason why people form corporations. It's if you want people to invest in your company, give you their money, they probably want that shield from liability. But also, the shareholders in a corporation, they elect a board of directors, and the board of directors manages the corporation, and they're the ones who will, appoint the CEO and the management of the corporation. Is that a good enough overview?
Yeah, that's a good overview. So if you own a share of stock, say the corporation had 1 million shares of stock outstanding, what would that one share of stock you own represent?
That would represent your fractional ownership in the corporate. So if it was 1 million shares and you owned one, you'd essentially own 1/1,000,000th of a ownership interest, and so you would have claim to 1/1,000,000th of the profits of the corporation and the residual assets of the corporation. When I say residual, I mean after all debts have been paid, all others who have a senior claim on the assets of the corporation have been paid. So if a corporation went bankrupt, you know, and you had to pay out all the creditors what they're owed, there may or may not be anything left for the shareholders. They're kind of last in line to get whatever's left in that instance.
That's a good point. Corporation, if you're a shareholder, and you probably won't get anything if the corporation goes bankrupt because you're last in line, basically. So that's what you own is 1/1,000,000th of the corporation. If you have a share, one share that has 1,000,000 shares outstanding, and often big corporations that trade on Wall Street things have millions and millions of shares outstanding. So you get a sense of what exactly they're going to get. Most of the time when we talk about shares of stock, we're talking about something called common stock. But common stock isn't the only kind of stock. So Danny, can you tell the class about what types of stock exist?
So there's the common stock, which is the typical type of stock that Steve just covered, and that's how common stock is treated as far as you get a share of the profits, but you are the last person to get paid out. There's also what they call preferred stock, and preferred stock it's the ability to purchase shares in a company in which you do not receive any voting rights within the company, so you can't vote on anything, but you are going to be paid out before the common stock shareholders. So therefore, that's a way for you to be kind of paid, guarantee yourself a better chance of being paid out as long as they can pay out their creditors first.
Okay. Yeah, so it's preferred shares are sort of like stock, but they're somewhere, they're just a little bit different. You don't get any say in the corporation. Where if you're a common shareholder, you actually have a vote in what goes on. So there are certain times when shareholders get to vote on things, and if you're a common shareholder, you actually get to vote. Preferred shareholders don't. Okay, well, I think that covers the topic for today, and I'm sure we'll be back with others. Talk to you later.